Hey everybody, this is Mike Kai from Hawaii at Inspire Church, and I want to welcome you to the Leader Lift podcast. I love interviewing people, and to me, one of the best interviews I've ever done just took place with this podcast. His name is Pastor John Cameron from Arise Church in Wellington, New Zealand. That's where he's based, but all over New Zealand, the North and the South Island. And John is one of those great young thinkers when it comes to church and business and the kingdom. And I love his heart. I love his heart for his country, but also for pastors and for leaders. And in this podcast, I had a great opportunity to dive and delve into the way that John thinks and how God is using this crisis to help better his leadership and also his church. If you're a leader, a pastor, or even if you're in business, I really believe that you're going to find this podcast extra special and extra helpful. So I want you to listen, whether you're watching us right now or you're just listening to us. I'm hoping that this really uplifts you, equips you, and helps you lead better today and tomorrow. So without further ado, I want you to listen to my good friend from Wellington, New Zealand, Pastor John Cameron. I'm really excited to have you on this, John, because to me, I think you're one of the most brilliant thinkers in the church today. You've got a prophetic voice, but also not just your foresight, but also to what's going on right now. So I wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity just to capture your thoughts on this whole COVID thing. But we're recording it. It's going to go straight to all the different platforms that we have. But I just wanted to just talk story, like in Hawaii, right? We just talk story. We just keep on talking. So if we could just go with that, is that cool with you?
Yeah, sure. Whatever you want, man.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So
thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, if people are watching right now, officially we just believe right now that God is speaking to John and to me and through us, and the Holy Spirit's just leading us. And I just want to introduce John Cameron to you. He's a mine, and he pastors an amazing church in New Zealand called Arise Church. I think you've got 10 campuses right now or more, right? Is it 10 or more? What right now? What is it, John?
We're like 9.5, so we have 9, and we have another one that's we've started. It's got a group of about 100 people, but it doesn't launch till next year.
Okay, right. Yeah. And he's been married to his beautiful wife Jillian for, I'm gonna guess, 20 years. There's only like 20, right? You're so young.
24 this weekend.
24. This weekend is 24 years.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Not bad, huh?
Yeah, you did great, buddy. You did great. Punching, right? That's what they call it down there. And also beautiful daughter named Lara and a son named Will. And so he pastors, to me, one of the greatest churches in Western civilization, Arise Church. Right now in New Zealand, I'm sure you're going to expand beyond your borders. I just know that for sure it's time. You probably feel that too, but who am I to say? But I just want to say that I'm excited to have him on the Leader Lift podcast, everybody. Glad that you can see him in the flesh. I got a real serious question for you, John, right now. My first question is, where are you getting your hair cut right now?
Like you, I'm not.
Right.
I must admit, the day before the lockdown, I went in and got a haircut, and I said to him, cut it as short as you humanly can.
That's good. I'm due for one, and I'm gonna go back and do my own haircut. Like I did a tutorial. I had my friend who's a barber, a professional barber on Kauai, and he's like the best. His name is Manny, and I hooked him up, and he was coaching me. I got a little bit of video of it. I used to cut my own hair back in the day when I was younger, and wanted to really pinch every penny. But now I get somebody cuts my hair, but no big deal. But I remember now I'm going back to the old days. Like church is in the house now. Like when we first started, it's going back to church back in the house. I used to cut my hair back in the day. I'm going back and cut my hair again. So we got third world problems going on in our church right now.
Primal roots. We're going back to our primal roots.
Exactly. So John, these are we normally see each other under lighter circumstances and a little bit more fun circumstances. We're either preaching, we're at a conference together, or you're coming to Hawaii with Jillian or one of the kids and you're preaching at our conference or at our church. What has it been like, and how many weeks has it been since New Zealand has been on this COVID lockdown?
So New Zealand is on a full lockdown from COVID. So we basically have shut down for the last 4 weeks everything but what we call essential services. So you name it, it's closed. Basically, the way we should probably say it is what's open. What's open is buses and trains, supermarkets, a pharmacy. I think you call them a pharmacy, chemist, a drugstore.
Right.
Drugstores are open. The hospitals are open. And really, that's it. So you can't even go and visit your doctor, your own personal doctor. That's gone. Physiotherapists gone. All industry gone, unless you can work from home. So the banks are working from home. Our staff obviously working from home, and a bunch of industries have done their best to convert to that. But if you're in construction, hospitality, tourism, gone. So it's just full lockdown. Yeah. So, I mean, because we're like Hawaii, we're an island in the middle of nowhere. And so I don't actually know what you're doing there, Mike, but I mean, basically our government has set their sights on eliminating COVID. So we have less and less active cases of COVID every day. And we open up about another 50% of our industry next week. So construction starts, you can go to your workplace if you need to. Those kinds of things are happening. Yeah. They just said nothing about the church, though. Nothing about the church. And we went to them on Monday and said, hey, what's the next level of restrictions going to mean for us? And they're like, we'll get back to you. So it's just, we're a very secular country. So for us, the church is not even part of what they're thinking about.
Right. Well, in Hawaii right now, we're on lockdown, but there's still essential services, like different parts of the United States of America. So construction is still going on. Right now, our economy for the tourism has been devastated. We have the highest rate of unemployment in the United States of America out of 50 states, the highest rate of unemployment, up to 40% and climbing. But we do have the lowest cases of COVID.
40%?
40% unemployment right now. Yeah, and that's mainly based in tourism, and we still have people who are building. So our construction, our tradie guys are still working, and that's a good thing. But we do have the lowest cases of COVID. So they actually decided that the mayor decided last week that he just wants to keep us closed till May 31st. That's his call. I don't know why. I think we can slowly release, but we'll see what the governor says. We'll see what the president has to say. But we're really in that situation right now. So we're an island in the middle Pacific, just like you guys. But what I see is great things happening out of this, though. So my question for you guys, and you as an innovator in church, as being on the cutting edge, if not ahead of the curve in everything that what I see happening from anywhere from Singapore to South Africa to America, were you ready to flip the switch, or did you feel the rumblings coming from Asia? You saw something happening and you guys were pretty much ready to go there? Tell me about that.
Well, I think that there's never been a more faster unfolding picture than COVID, right? So, I mean, did we see it coming? I think yes. Do I wish I'd moved faster at the same time? Absolutely yes. I wish I'd made some further plans. Probably the only thing I would have done is I would have culled my calendar a lot earlier and just gone all in for everything, getting ready for the next season of time. We didn't think New Zealand would completely lock down as fast as it did. And so we were caught on the hop a little bit there. Not really, but I just think we could have done better. But I think in terms of like what COVID has done is it's shaken up the church and really put it into two categories. You're either able to connect with people online or you're not. And if you're able to connect with people online, then you're doing okay. And if you're not, then I think as a church, you are really struggling right now. And it's all coming down to adapting to that online platform as fast as you can. Right.
So like even in Hawaii, you probably experienced the same thing. We had a decent online presence, maybe 800 to 1,000 or 1,100 on a normal weekend to several thousand in buildings. And then all of a sudden, switch flips, and we go from 0 in buildings to an exponential amount online. That was crazy. What are you finding as the biggest challenge to keep people engaged who are now part of your brand new church family, so to speak?
Well, Mike, I mean, you and I have actually talked about this privately, at length. And I mean, I think the biggest difference now with the service that is online is that people can come and go without any sense of embarrassment. They're anonymous. Right. They're watching the service. If it's not connecting, then they are out. And I think that's an unprecedented challenge of keeping people's attention. So we've been working super hard. I mean, when I watch every service every week, not every service we broadcast, but I watch every service we do broadcast every week. And in the first few weeks, you just watch moments, because I know how it works. With people these days, they're so addicted to these phones in their hand that if it's not capturing their attention, they're just flipping. They're flipping to the next thing. So I was watching our service, and I'm like, that's a low point. That's not engaging. That was not effective. This wasn't capturing my attention. That illustration wasn't really the right thing. And I can just, in my heart, I can feel people just going flick, 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 flick. So we've worked super hard on just, trying to make that something that is going to keep people's attention the entire time. I've reduced my messages to 20 minutes in length, which I think has been a really good idea. We're only doing 2 or 3 praise and worship songs, and our entire service is a maximum of 48 minutes long. So we're all the way down to that. Just, I'm one thing I'm doing, Mike, that has really been helping me is I think you're doing the similar thing to me, Mike, where I can't even have a production crew. Like, New Zealand is so tight that even though I have like several video people full time on my staff, they can't come to my house. So my 15-year-old daughter, who fortunately is a major art student, is literally setting up the cameras, doing everything, and then we have to upload it from my house. So what I'm doing is I'm preaching the sermon. I just set up a camera, no lights. I preach it, and I take it to my study. I watch it, then I change the heck out of it. Just tweak it, adjust it, and then come back and do it again. So normally we're shooting the same sermon 4 times every week. The one we're airing this weekend, I shot it 5 times, but that was actually not my fault. We had a fault with one of the cameras in the 4th take, so that was a blessing. But I think that you've just got to make sure that experience is relevant and it's capturing people.
Right. So
speaking
true.
To them now. Yeah. I mean, I heard John Maxwell say the other day, you probably heard the same quote, but he said, in crisis, people don't want hype. I mean, if you're pastoring in Hawaii right now, you can't hype your way through 40% unemployment. I mean, my heart's broken for you, Mike. No, that's huge for your people, and they're such incredible people. You can't hype your way through that. And people don't want you to just be empathetic, like just be, emotions through that. What people want is to be led through that. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to say, it's not going to be about the substance, the style of your preaching. It's going to be how effectively are you leading your people through that crisis. Wisdom is going to build the house during this season, I think. Yeah. Absolutely
true. Normally, your service would be 1 hour and 10 minutes. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, unless we get carried away. So an hour 10, hour 20.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, same thing with us. I think you guys have it a little bit harder right now because you can't have any crew. I can still, praise the Lord, I can still go to my office, and there'll be like 3 or 4 people in the room, but I actually can't preach with people in the room. I preach with like 100 to 1,200 people in the room, or nobody at all. So I kick everybody out. I just kick everybody out.
Right.
And I'm looking at the camera because every little movement, guys with white masks, in a dark room. They're moving here. They're throwing me off. And I just swept the room. I said, everybody out, everybody out. And just, man, I tell you what, probably the most frustrating thing about doing this is I've had to become the techie in my own home, just like Lara became yours, and you had to hone your skill. We went straight to, I ordered the best opportunity for Wi-Fi strength to be placed into my home because I'm uploading videos. I'm learning what is a tired shot. Is my living room tired? Not my living room's not tired, but my shot of my living room. So I'm switching places wherever I'm shooting to give some variety. And then the biggest thing is to bring as much hope as you can through a lens, and be able for them to feel you and feel your love for them, even though you're not even with them, right? And that's the biggest challenge. What is to me? What has been? I want to ask you two questions. What's been the greatest blessing, and what's been the greatest frustration? So you can take them anywhere you want. Say anyone you want first.
Of the COVID thing, I mean, I think the greatest blessing is the number of people that we're reaching that we normally wouldn't reach. I mean, honestly, we're just reaching so many people that we normally wouldn't get to a church building. They are watching at home. And you know, that's not just for me. Like, I hear pastors say that sometimes, and I'm like, I don't even know if your numbers are real, but I can tell you a lot of stories. We've got a lot of chat rooms going, you know, connected. You know, we're getting feedback. And we're seeing the numbers come in. We're reaching a lot of people, which I think is the greatest blessing of this season.
Yeah.
The greatest frustration for me is the upheaval to people's lives. The upheaval, the uncertainty, the fear, the anxiety, the stress that it's putting on people, you know, is really, really big. And I think that's extremely tough. You know, I mean, I think people that lose their jobs, that's massive, and the impacts of that are so big. I'm sure it's the same world over, but you know, domestic abuse rates are way up, marital conflicts way up. You know, I'm sure that there's a lot of people that are really feeling out of control of their lives, and we know the answer to that, right? Is that
right.
we come under the lordship of Christ, and we throw ourselves upon his arms and we lean into him. But a broken world needs that message now more than ever. And I think that we're coming under pressure to be able to communicate that effectively. So that's my biggest frustration. Just watching people go through pain. It's not nice, you know. It's hard.
Right. John, it was great. It's like last Tuesday, I had the opportunity every Tuesday morning to sit in a group with Pastor Chris Hodges. I know someone that you respect and loves you dearly. And we were in a Zoom call. And on this Zoom call, he interviewed Dr. Henry Cloud. And for those of the people who are watching right now who have never heard of Dr. Henry Cloud, he is an author of the book called Boundaries. It's about 20 to 25 years old, but an incredible book. Cloud and Townsend wrote that.
Amazing.
And then he wrote a book called Necessary Endings, and Necessary Endings about pruning things from your life. But Dr. Cloud was interviewed by Chris Hodges, and one of the great things that he said was, not only are we experiencing a pandemic, which is scientific in nature, but we're also going through an economic collapse. And then you want to add on to that a mental health crisis that is in the wings. And not only is there stress, he said, but there's also new habits that are being formed by people because they're home. And it's crazy to think of what this could look like when we come out of this. But I thank God that we have the church. I thank God that you and I have the opportunity in such a crisis time like this, where God could have picked us to live in any other time, that he allowed us to minister and to pastor and to bring hope in times like these. Tell me, what is the biggest blessing that you've seen through all of this? Okay, people coming to Christ, people watching. But aside from that, great, that's the biggest one. But let me ask you, what is the blessing that you've seen personally for yourself?
Well, I don't know about you, Mike, but my weekends look pretty great.
yeah. Yes. I'm sleeping in on Sunday, bro.
I mean, honestly, you know, I don't know what your rhythm is like, but because we have to mix and master everything to get the audio and make sure I don't look bad, you know, we're filming either on Tuesday afternoon or on Wednesday. So then, you know, that means for me that my largest piece of work is done. So then, I don't know about you, but I'm loving that. That's a total game changer. Just to
Right. Me too. Me
be able
too.
to have a Saturday that is off without this monkey on your back is
Yeah.
beautiful.
Right.
I'm a morning person, so I'm like in bed by 8:30. I'm up at 5. I'm productive. I'm feeling fresh energy wise. I mean, this is, my afternoon of my last day of the week, so I'm not the freshest right now, but I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying the need to lead. I don't know about you, Mike, but when my church is going well, I feel honestly, I feel like I have a great team. And when it's going well, it really doesn't need me. And if I've made any mistake in the last 3 or 4 years, it's probably been there when they didn't need me to be. I mean, even Jesus said, it's good for me to go away. He said to the disciples, it's good for me to go away.
Right.
And I just feel like right now, it is definitely that season where I need to be here and need to lead effectively. So I'm in it a little bit more than I normally would be, but I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying the fact that we have to rethink everything. We don't have the kind of unemployment that Hawaii is seeing, but we certainly have. We're expecting New Zealand's unemployment to probably peak out somewhere between 13 and 20%. We're not there yet, but it'll get there. Tourism for us is 13% of our gross domestic product.
Wow.
And so obviously that's all gone, overnight gone, everything gone. So that's going to be a big hit for every area. So we're going back through our church and we're having to really lead ourselves back to what we should be doing. I say that because it's easy to end up doing things that you necessarily shouldn't be doing. So it's a great season for us to just work out what we're going to keep, what we're not going to keep. I don't like procrastinating decisions. I feel like sometimes when a crisis comes up, people waste a lot of time trying to work out what the crisis means and therefore what they're going to do. I don't like that. I don't tend to do that. I sat down with my team and I just went, okay, so income drops by 10%, income drops by 20%, income drops by 35%, 50%. What will we do at every level? What does that look like?
Right.
So right now we're really zeroing in on 20 and 35% for us as being what we're focused on. And then we're just saying, okay, well, if we have to do that, what does that look like? And getting our heads into that. But that'd be a really terrible thing to do just at a detailed level. So we're doing it at a more of a, okay, out of all the things that we do, out of everything that we invest in, when we look back in 10 years' time and we say, what was really key that we did in 2020 that led us to the success that we're enjoying in 2030, what are those things going to be? And trying to break that down and say, what are the 3 things that we do now that will matter the most for us in 10 years' time? And then basically prune away other things so that we're, in this season, tightening our belts, bring us back to what's really important so that in 10 years' time, we can truly say, as things come more online and more space comes available, more budget comes available, we can move further, faster into the future that God has for us. So we've identified some things we think is really important. We're now involving all of our staff in that journey. And then we're just going to have to cut stuff like cut deep and cut hard now, make the right decisions now, so that in 10 years' time, we have come out of this stronger than we've ever been, So we're investing in new areas like everybody's going to have to. Production's going to have to get better. Camera's going to have to get better. Online space. For us in New Zealand, it's quite possible that you won't be able to have a gathering of over 500 people until there is a vaccine for COVID. So that might change, but we're not America. We don't have a Bill of Rights. So our government doesn't have to give you personal freedoms. No one jumps up and down here. We're more that way. So we're getting ready for everything. And for me, to be honest, that it just excites the heck out of me. Just like responding, reacting, trying to lead effectively. I don't enjoy the difficulty that it brings to people. I sincerely hate that. But as a leader, I guess I'm turned on by the moment. I think, you're probably the same, Mike. You're like, we're born for this, right? We just sort of, you get up and you go for it, right?
Right. I feel the same way. Feel like I've been tested in my leadership like never before. I'm up for the challenge. I feel I have the right voices around me, the right counselors speaking into my life, great people, great men of God that. And I'm also interested to see what we look like coming out of this, right? Like, what does this look like? What does church look like? What's the hybrid before it becomes the standard? Is it physical buildings with people in them, like 500 or less, and multiple services, everything video now because they're used to the video? Is it, do you have one church that is just like what we're creating right now, that's online and that's the norm? And then you also have the peak, let's peek in, old online version that we used to have? Is it 3 different churches that are emerging out of this? I don't know. Yeah. I do know this, that when it comes to the finances, like from week 1, I was already, level 1, level 2, level 3, DEFCON. That's the military term. DEFCON 1, DEFCON 2, DEFCON 3. This happens, this happens, this happens. Haven't had to pull DEFCON 1 yet. Praying that we don't have to. But we just instituted that we are creating a brand new budget to run parallel to the current budget. And that brand new budget means let's reinvent the budget now. Because now we're not spending money here. Let's reallocate here. Let's save there. And what does that new budget look like while we're running it parallel with the old one? And we'll see how it goes. But it's exciting times at the same time. And like you said, don't like the hardship that it's putting on people. So far, nobody in our congregation has had the disease yet. So we praise God. Like I said, Hawaii's coming down. And when this lifts, I'd love to see just the Holy Spirit continue to sweep through our state. John, I don't know if you knew this, but this year is the 200th year anniversary of the gospel coming to Hawaii. So 200 years.
Wow.
Wow. The first time. And, we're related in terms of the Maori and the Hawaiians. And the gospel came to Hawaii 200 years ago. And within a 15-year span, from that moment to 15 years later, a revival swept Hawaii that Elmore Towns, the historian, says was one of the top 10 revivals in the history of the world. It was really an awakening, not a revival, but one of the top 10. He compared it to Nineveh. So I've got to believe that there's something related to this that God is doing in my country and in my state. And in this, Hawaiian kingdom that used to exist here. And so I can't wait to see what that is. But it's ironic that we got shut down right when we were going to celebrate. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. And I think definitely the gospel is just so much more relevant now than it's ever been.
Yeah.
And this is going to expose, there's been a lot of talk about this, a lot of preachers out there, but if I can just add my own 2 cents to it, I think that,
please do.
I think that, what this is doing for us is that it's exposing what we've probably relied on all the time, that was a false God, a false comfort, something that was never really a foundation that we can build our lives on. And the people with the solid relationship with God will survive it, I've been telling my church that this is not my first crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that to sound bad. I mean it to sound like I have been overwhelmed with fear at situations that I've faced in my life. Absolutely. But all many years ago, you name it, Mike, I've had it. I had a house that was rotting from the inside out. I had a son with an autoimmune disease. I had a wife diagnosed with an incurable disease. you know, we've faced major opposition in our church along our journey. Most of our media has been great, but, you know, we are a very, very secular country. So, you know, we have a lot of people out there that just hate the concept that a church is thriving. So for me, I guess I'm facing this, and it's not my first crisis. And now I just realized that in every crisis, the only thing that changes when you come out of a crisis is that you walk out of it without the things that bound you before you went into it, you know?
Yeah.
I bet you Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were pretty, you know, depressed and overwhelmed and fearful and frightened when they got thrown into the fiery furnace, but they came out, and the only thing that missing was the ropes that bound them. You know, Israel came out of Egypt and they're freaking the heck out and saying, we want to go back. And God's like, no, I brought you out to set you free. And I think that what COVID is going to do is it's going to give many, many people freedom from things that have bound them that they didn't even know they were bound by, you know.
Sure.
And
yes.
it's going to do that James 1:2-4 in us. It's going to bring us to that place where, you know, count it all joy when you face trials, because the testing of your faith is the only way that you develop perseverance. And perseverance has got to have its perfect work so that we're ready for all that God has. So the message series we're launching this weekend is called For All That Is to Come. And I'm trying to tell our church that this moment is the trial, but the trial is testing our faith. And the testing of our faith is the only way that we actually get to sort out. Because a lot of people right now are in the crucible and they're feeling the pain, and it's really, really awful. But in 5 years' time, so many of those moments where you think that the world is falling apart, you look back on them and you say, that was the greatest moment in my life. Because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have the confidence in the face of so many situations that I have now, which is kind of why I've been saying to people, it's not my first crisis. Like, I'm not afraid of anything with COVID, but only because of all the other things that I've already faced. I'm certainly empathetic, walking with people, but I'm not afraid, and only because of what I've faced already. And I think that's what's going to be healthy for people, as it could have the power to bring them back to solid faith, both in the church and outside of it. Yeah. And I think that's exciting, because, you know, isolation, persecution, famine, and difficulty, these have always been the roots of an explosive movement of church. Right. And, you know, I'm just praying that that's what we're going to see in our world. You know, we're going to see people coming out of isolation and difficulty, and they're going to explode as new leaders. You know, we're a pampered generation, right? We're pampered, and totally. you have to fight your own battle, and people are being forced to do that en masse like never before. And whilst I don't wish that on anyone, I also think that God loves us enough that he lets us walk through pain so that he can make us into the people that he wants us to be. And he sees through our current problem to the person that he wants us to be. And that's why he leaves us in moments when we feel overwhelmed, you know, is only to get us to the person he wants us to become.
So true, John. I got my sermon for next week. Thanks a lot, man. It's so good. That's good stuff. Which leads me to, I just want everybody to know this. John and Jillian Cameron are some of the greatest leaders that I know, and church builders, and and kingdom builders as well. But also, this man does not waste any words when he preaches. So you work hard at it. You know, I can see you, like we normally have 3 to 4 services, right? By the time we're going, like, I like that one. Let's put that one on TV. Let's put that one on the internet. But now you get one shot. Pretty much, you got one shot, unless you want to go shoot it over again. But even that one shot, you don't even want to waste it, right? So I can see you in the mirror practicing, going through it. This doesn't work, or having your iPhone, that's not working. Totally can see that, because you are a consummate professional, a very, very hard worker, and you don't waste anything. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate the example that you set, brother. That's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Thanks, Ben.
John, what do you see? What else do you see? What do you see? What's in your heart? What's in your, what are you sensing that's going to happen to arise coming out of this?
Well, I mean, oh man, I mean, I think that obviously there has never been a faster seismic shift in the way that people can orient their lives than this. You know, I mean,
Right.
I don't know, but you try for years to get somebody to FaceTime you or get on a Zoom call or, you know, whatever. And suddenly the whole world's doing it. My mum and dad have got it figured out. They're in their 70s. You know, they're watching online church. Everything's different. So there's a very quick fast forwarding of what's available to us now. So I don't think that we'll go back quickly from that. I think that that'll be around for a while. I think there's going to be fear for a while. I think America is a braver country as a whole, but for New Zealanders in particular, I think that online is going to be our largest platform for a considerable time to come. 18 months, I think. I see that being effective. So we're probably like you, Mike. Like we've live streamed our services for several years and called it our online campus. But now I'm probably saying, okay, so we've actually gone, okay, if that's our primary medium, then we have to nail that. So we're, you know, I mean, at the moment we can't film praise and worship, but when we can, we'll film praise and worship on Tuesday. I've already employed a mixer and a masterer. They're on our staff now. So we're mixing and mastering our praise and worship so that when you're listening to it through your television set or your iPhone, it doesn't sound like a really budget live link. We've catered our we've catered our messages to the amount of time that people want to sit still. I mean, there are guys out there still preaching for an hour, and I'm like, man, good preachers, but I'm like,
yeah,
no one's listening. No one's listening consistently for an hour, in my opinion. You know, I just don't think they are. Yeah. So then I'm now saying, what are we going to do when we come out of this? I mean, my mind is probably as far down the line as saying, I don't know if we would be smart once we can bring. A lot of churches are waiting for physical services to begin, and then they plan to go back to what they were doing. I'm probably saying, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. I think that probably what we're going to look to do is going to be, we're going to still do online the way that we're doing it now, probably forever. So then, I don't know. Don't judge me if I change plan in the next 6 months.
Nah.
We're having to think faster than ever. This is my current working theory. I think we'll keep going exactly the way we are now. We'll have that 46 to 48 minute online experience. It'll all be in the can very early in the week. So it's all excellent. Everything's dealt with. And we'll continue to put that out. And so then in many ways, our physical services are going to be the leftover of online. Does that make sense? Whereas going past, I think really we've had a church service that we care deeply about, and then online has kind of been, that's your overflow. That's your offering to the world. Hey, check this out if you want. I think we're going to have to flip that. We're going to have to make online first. The other big thing is that I don't know how quickly people going to want to go back to big crowds. You know, I mean, you spend a lot of time in Asia, Mike. So do I. Face masks didn't exist before SARS, right? But you go to Asia any day, anytime, you're going to find a lot of people wearing face masks in Asia, 15 years after SARS, and still people are wearing face masks. Yeah. So how long is it going to take the world to want to be part of a 2,000-seat auditorium? I don't know. So I'm probably saying, I mean, right now I've got my property team. We're looking at, you know, smaller warehouses. You know, we're looking at, you know, can we just go prolific? Can we just say, okay, we got a dream to start, you know, campuses all up and down the country, but obviously real estate's going to tank. People's want for a large service, I think, might be something there. I mean, I'm just shooting the breeze a little bit here,
right?
I'm probably saying, you know, we're leaning into smaller opportunities, more services, you know, things like that is where we're going in terms of our thinking. taking our ministry school, putting it all online. We have grown our ministry school in the middle of this COVID crisis by our evening side of it by like 400%.
Wow.
We're reaching people. We're reaching people from the top of New Zealand to the bottom, and what little there is of east to west as well. We're mainly just long and skinny, but people come from all over that are part of that. So we're training more leaders than we've ever done before. So we're never going to take that back. That's going to stay online. We're going to look to try and raise more and more leaders, and then I'm seriously leaning into as many life groups as we can. Where we don't have any campuses. If we've got 12 months, before large communities are available, then we've got an opportunity to reach more people faster than we ever have before, to get ready for new campuses, new locations. We're scaling up big time in terms of what we're thinking about for the next season of time. That's where we're going.
I love it, John. Thank you. Thank you for giving us a little bit of glimpse of what you guys are thinking, the way that you think. Let me ask you a question for me. Give me some advice. So we just bought 3 acres of land. I don't know how big that is in New Zealand, but I think you understand.
Acres.
Okay, acres. And we're set. We could put a 900-seat auditorium. I said, nah. I'd say let's go 700. Let's go stadium seating. Let's do the whole thing like we do in Waikele. Preschool on one side, because there's a big need on the west side for preschool education. And then on the other side, I wanted to do gyms. So multiple gyms for sport. So like volleyball, it would be like strictly volleyball and basketball. And so I would rent out gym time, and then thought about trying to connect with the Kobe Bryant Association or foundation and do a mini Mamba Academy and rent that out at the same time. But I'm wondering, is 700 too big? Now I'm wondering, is 500 a good size? Is a 500-seat auditorium? I already got the Waikele that seats 1,200. Do I go 500 and just boom, 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 our services, just boom, boom, just keep on and ticking it up? What would you do if you were me? I'd love to know what you know.
Oh man, I think it all comes down to economics, doesn't it? I mean, I think it's really, for me, it's all about economics. I mean, probably where Arise is at, we will basically, we're like you, we're going smaller in our auditorium size, bigger in our foyer size, and bigger in our kids size. At the end of the day, the worst case scenario you can have is to have a large auditorium that doesn't have the kids programs to service it. So we normally tap out the growth of our locations, not in the auditorium, but in kids and car parking. That's the reality for us. So I would rather have a smaller auditorium, because adults, nobody minds sitting in a packed auditorium. If my kid is really happy, if the air conditioning works, that's kind of like the ultimate, because a packed auditorium for 1 hour is like, man, we're going. So and auditorium seats are very expensive to build. That's always a lot of square feet. Whereas the kids' rooms are normally, to make them 50% bigger is nothing, in comparison to an auditorium 50% bigger. So that's kind of where we would go overall. And then we come down to economics, like how long do we want to pay for it before it's debt free? What do we pay for the land? All these things kind of come into play as being part of it. I think you really got to know your environment. What's similar with both Hawaii and New Zealand is that land and buildings are crazy expensive. So we can commiserate with each other about that, as we hear about our mainland American / Australian friends with their 10 acres for $1 million purchases.
Yeah, but we live in more beautiful places, though. That's the thing, right? Our places are more beautiful.
Yeah. So. Who wants to live in Ohio?
Exactly. I want to thank you for your time. Before we even land the plane on this thing, I just want you to know that I appreciate your time. And I was thinking, what is the one self-care thing that you've been doing? thing that you've been doing to keep John Cameron healthy through this crisis?
What shall I give you? I try and stop my work every day for every hour every day, and just spend 2 minutes praying. So that's probably been the biggest thing that I'm doing. And alongside that, I am taking about 5 hours, maybe more, maybe 8 hours a week, and I am researching the heck out of what everybody else is doing out there. And that for me has been really, really helpful, just to say, I don't like that. I do like that. That's a good idea. I like the way they're engaging. That's smart. And just making sure that I'm feeding myself with as many ideas as I can to keep myself optimistic. If I was feeling overwhelmed by this, then what I would be doing the most is I would be journaling my prayers and then asking God to breathe on them. So if you're a pastor out there or a Christian out there, and that's the way you're feeling right now, you're feeling just overwhelmed by this crisis. And I'm just so aware that for many people, this is their first major crisis.
Right. True.
And,
True.
With Abraham, this is what I talked to my church about 4 things that God took Abraham through when his fears were overwhelming him. Genesis 15. Don't be afraid. I'm your shield, your very great reward. Well, what good is all that if I don't have a kid? So he's full of fear at that time. And the first thing God did was he gave him a safe voice for his fears. So you got to talk it out. You got to find a way you can talk out that apprehension that you're feeling. And I've found the best way to do that for me is trusted advisors and journaling. So the right people that I can just articulate it. You got to hear what you're saying to yourself. If your fears live in your head, then they can easily escalate to very, very ridiculous proportions. The second thing God did was God discredited his doubts. He said, no, that's not going to happen to you. And then God got him to engage in wonder. And I've been really selling this to my church, a wonder project. God took him outside and left him counting stars. And I think that's really powerful. It's just we need in this season a wonder project. We've got to get back to the bigness of God and the bigness of the world in which we live. Hawaii is a great place to do that, by the way. It just is wonder. Look at my background right now.
Love it. It's better than mine right now.
Yeah. Look at that, Yeah. Get back to wonder so that you can then receive the promise again, And then He said, so shall your descendants be. This is what your life's going to be like. And we just have to make sure that we're coming to God and keeping that right perspective. Yeah.
So good. So good. Thank you, John. I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you for taking the time out of your very, very busy schedule and prioritizing this. It makes a big difference in a lot of people's lives who are going to hear this. A lot of pastors will be encouraged. A lot of leaders are going to be inspired, and a lot of people in the kingdom of God are going to thank you for this. So everybody, I want you to follow him on Instagram, John Cameron NZ on Instagram, and you're going to see him back at Inspire when we can travel again. He'll definitely be back, and want to thank you. Give your wife Jillian a hug. Say hi to Will and Lara for us. Lisa sends her love. She's in the other office over there, and we love you guys, man. Thanks for your time.
Love you, Mike. Love you so much. Thanks for hosting this. Thanks for everything. Thanks for being such a great friend. We love you and Lisa so very much, and your awesome children. They're the best, and we love you so much. Can't wait to see you again, my friend.
Thanks, John. God bless you, man. I'll just give you a shaka before we leave. Well, everybody, that was just a great interview and a conversation that I had with John Cameron from Arise Church in Wellington, New Zealand. I hope this podcast really served you well. I hope you found some things inspirational, absolutely equipping you to become a better leader from today as well as tomorrow. Not just tomorrow, but as well as today. If you want more information on our podcast, or you want to explore a lot more than we do just in the Leader Lift podcast, you can also go to my Instagram at mikekai, or you can go to inspirechurchlive, and you could hear more about the Leader Lift podcast and more on what we're doing during this COVID crisis. And I'm hoping that you're staying safe, you're being smart, using wisdom, and still dreaming during this COVID crisis, because this crisis season will not last forever. It will come to an end, but then we enter our new and are now normal. I'm hoping that you're making plans when you get out of this thing. May the Lord bless you. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. All the way from Honolulu, Hawaii, Kailua, Waikele, wherever it is, it's still Hawaii. God bless you. Take care. Aloha.